Well, some big bets have been placed against Carson Beck. I don't know if you saw this. Something that ESPN reported about earlier today. I'd not seen it yet. I think there's a lot of stuff that's been happening from the 4th of July till today, about the last week, where Carson Beck is no longer the singular favorite to win the Heisman Trophy going into the 2024 season. He is either the co favorite or has been passed by former Oklahoma and I believe former UCF quarterback and current Oregon quarterback Dylan Gabriel. That was a mouthful. Quite a quite a thing to say there. Gabriel's moved around quite a bit in his time. I mean, this is going to be his sixth season of college football somehow. Amazingly, good for him, by the way. All these guys are playing until they're 30. Could not be smarter. But yeah, he started at UCF. He got hurt in 2021. Something happened there, as I recall. And then he finished his past season in Oklahoma with 30 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, which was similar to his season before, 25 touchdowns, 6 interceptions for OU in 22. So the Hawaii native now, at least the co-favorite, if not the outright favorite. Here's what ESPN had to say about it in their reporting. David Purdom saying, reporting that he began July with 10-1 odds, but he went from 14-1 to 9-1 over time, and he is quoting Chase Michelson from the Superbook in Vegas, and he says, "I think there were some maybe influential people that hopped on it and said they liked it on some public spaces. It's people that we respect that like Gabriel, and I think there's lots of reasons to like him." Which is true. I mean, if you think that 30 touchdowns and 5 interceptions is not that great, or 6 interceptions, I'm not sure what to say. There's further reporting from ESPN, which is kind of curious as well. It says that Gabriel or Carson at plus 750, because FanDuel has this at 750, plus 750 for both of them currently, and Quinn Ewers is at plus 1,000. That's the longest odds of any Heisman favorite entering the season in the past 15 years, according to ESPN Stats and Information Research. So, needless to say, this is a wide open race for the Heisman Trophy. I know how Georgia fans are, and they will be celebrating this because they are perverted and they don't seem to understand that it's okay to have really good players win really big awards. And I think that's something that that could happen with Carson Beck this season, for sure. That also too though dovetails into this is a very wide open Heisman Trophy race, for sure. Hey, So Poly is what Eco Poly is called now. 478-374-6398. We cannot do this sort of work. We're heading to Dallas on Monday I'm headed on to Dallas on Monday for media days. Please support those who support us like you have for such a long time. Eco Poly is now So Poly. You can find So Poly furniture like the one that I'm sitting in here right now at their dealer locator. You just go to SoPoly.com. Check that out today. I don't know if you still see this chair that I've been using for about a year now. It's a really great product. I've had a chair outside, which I don't show all the time. And all I have to do is, I don't even have to wash it. Just spray it with water, and it's ready to go. Whenever you dry it. So these are awesome products. Make sure you're checking out SoPoly.com. They have been a great partner with us for the last year. I think when you talk about Carson Beck and his situation, Dylan Gabriel is going to have a lot of opportunities to have the spotlight on him. The beginning of the Oregon season is not like the Georgia season. Georgia goes right off the bat with some really good games. I don't know, as good as ESPN's website can be, I don't know why there are times when I get frustrated with their situation, but nonetheless, now I'm having to go find the Oregon schedule because I know that I know that Oregon, both OUs, I guess maybe Oregon's the University of Oregon, whereas Oklahoma is Oklahoma University. Is that right? he is going to play that Ohio State game. That game is going to matter a lot. But for me, man, this is the part that I'm complaining about right now is really aggravating. Yeah, they do not have a great start to the season. That was kind of going on memory. They will play on Fox in September. But this is not a great schedule. I'm going to put it up on the screen for Oregon. And I have some more things to say about this as before I rail on this schedule, because it's not a great schedule at the beginning for sure. But there's plenty to catch up with. They've got Idaho and Boise, which are both right there, and obviously Oregon State. Those are trash games. Those are not games that anybody's going to have any interest in. The game at UCLA is not good right now. They lost their head coach. It's just not great. But from that point forward, Ohio State, Michigan, and then UW, two of those are going to be more paid attention to than others. You can do the math on that. You've already got 3 Fox games, the Oregon State game, which is controlled by Oregon State. But anyway, they're going to be on Fox quite a bit. They'll get a big audience with Oregon, Ohio State, Oregon, Michigan, Oregon, Washington. Those will all be huge games for Dan Lanning and company. For Carson Beck, on the other hand, we can quickly and easily go to Dawg Post and see what's going on with the Dogs. You got Clemson right out of the gate. Then you go to Kentucky and you play Alabama. Those 3 games in the first 4 are going to be on ABC. There's no confusion. So to start the race, Carson Beck's going to have a lot of attention on him. And then Jalen Milroe will play for Alabama. This is assuming there are no injuries or anything like that. You've got Quinn Ewers, who Carson Beck will also take on. This is a schedule that sets up for Beck really well. In that, it's challenging. They'll get credit for playing on the road against Alabama, Texas, and Ole Miss. If they win those games, it's going to be hard for someone else to beat him out. But we'll just see how it goes with the Heisman. Having spent time up there, I've been a Heisman voter. So full disclosure, I've been a Heisman voter for 16 years or 17. I can't remember. 2005. So coming on 20 years. I don't know. It's not 16 years. It's almost 19 years. And having gone up to New York for everything in 2022, that is really, it's a small operation, the Heisman Trophy. It is. But it's a magical time for those guys. I got the ability to spend time with Stetson in New York. Caleb Williams was there. Max Duggan was there. And then C.J. Stroud was there. That was a really good group of players. You had Stroud. Duggan came out of nowhere. Great story. Great story. Not better than Stetson's, but great story. And then, Caleb Williams, number 1 overall draft pick. And you've also got, C.J. Stroud, who might be the best young quarterback that's not named Joe Burrow in the NFL. So it was a great group. And then, of course, you have arguably, the biggest winner of all time in college football, Stetson Bennett. It depends on what kind of argument you want to make there, but Carson going to New York probably will happen. Carson winning the Heisman, we'll see. When you are the starting quarterback of the number 1 program in the country, if they get to Atlanta, he's probably going to be in New York. If they get to Atlanta, I'm not saying they got to win. If they get to Atlanta, and if they're undefeated, 13-0 coming out of that thing, he probably will be the Heisman Trophy winner. But that's all hard to know for sure. It's all predicated on my, suspicions. But right now, he is the co-favorite or the number 2 heading into the season, and it's really wide open race. It's really wide open. I'll add this as a Heisman Trophy voter since 2005. I'm gonna stop doing math after a while. Those of us who grew up and went to public schools in DeKalb County stay away from math. But as a Heisman Trophy voter, you cannot win it in September. You cannot win it in October. You can maybe lose it in those 2 months. I am starting to view it as you can't win the Heisman Trophy until the last 3 weekends of the season. You can lay the runway down at the beginning of the year, but if you're Georgia, Texas, Alabama, Oregon, it is now going to come down to what do you do in your rivalry game. For Georgia, that's weak because it's Georgia Tech. What do you do in your rivalry game? And then what do you do in your championship game? And you have to really perform in those moments. Stetson never had a Heisman moment. Maybe when he ran away from Tennessee, number one Tennessee in Athens. He never had a Joe Burrow moment, Cam Newton moment. I've forgotten the Alabama quarterback's name who beat Georgia. Golly, not C.J. Stroud, but the guy who went number one in front of him, he probably shouldn't have. Bryce Young. Golly, that's hard for me to remember. Sorry about that. He had his moment against the Dogs. So, and he deserved to win it. And in 22, the SC quarterback was just so good. He didn't need a moment. But I don't know that that's going to be the case this year at all. But last year, Carson Beck did have his moment against Auburn. He did have times where they were challenged and came back to win. It feels like you need those in Heisman Trophy seasons. You don't always have to have them, I guess. I'm trying to think back. I mean, Robert Griffin, I don't remember a moment for him. And you don't have, again, that speaks to my point. You don't have to have a moment. Mark Ingram, Johnny Manziel, I do think had a moment. So Cam, I think, had at least one, if not two. The play against Auburn and then the comeback against Alabama, those were both tremendous. I don't think Tim Tebow ever had a moment necessarily in that 07 season. It was 07. It wasn't against Georgia. He had his face mask in the dirt most of that game. So you need moments help, but you don't always get them. Carson Beck, I keep trying to say Stetson Bennett. Carson Beck will have plenty of opportunities to have moments. But I think the fewer moments, the better, because the fewer moments that you have, the more that means your team is really doing well and not having to concentrate on you. But you've got Clemson, Alabama, Texas, Ole Miss, Tennessee. Those teams alone, I think, could get you a Heisman if you really play well. But we'll see. Carson no longer the exclusive betting favorite. Comments? Thanks for watching.